everyone. Welcome to this week's episode. I'm super excited because I have my dear friend guesting today, and her name is Teresa Ramirez. Say hi, Teresa.
Hi, everybody.
Super excited for her to be on and to share her story of grace and glory because that's what we're all about. So, Teresa, let's just start. When was that moment that Jesus just kind of got in there and God just kind of grabbed hold of that of your heart and just made you go, I need more of you?
Yeah. And, it's one of those things. There was a school shooting down in Florida. Now, there's been there's been school shootings after. So I don't know, but God grabbed me and said, you need to write a letter to these kids. So I wrote a dear student letter, grieving with them, sympathizing with them. And then I said, hey, there's something you can do today, right now, today. And that's go sit with that kid at lunch. And these words all came from God, just so you know. This all came from God because I tried to change the letter because my son didn't like some wording. So at one point, my son said, well, change this. I couldn't change it. They were not my words, they were God's words. And this is what he wanted me to say. And that included, sitting with that kid at lunch. If somebody dumps books, pencils all over the floor, help them pick them up. Just little everyday things to make people feel that they matter. So that's how this all got started. From there, then I didn't listen very well. And I put the letter aside for about a year. And then he started doing the poke thing. And I got the letter back out and I sat with God again. And he said, do a 21-day kindness challenge. So I did that on Facebook, just going through a kid's day. Who do you encounter? Who do they encounter? And that was, the parents, your siblings. Then once you get out the door, it's the carpool driver, the bus driver. Then once you get to school, it's the principal, the teacher, the cafeteria worker. So each day was a challenge to be kind to one of those people. And from there, it was great. I got to go to schools, got to talk. Everything was wonderful. And then COVID hit. And I was like, okay, God, now what? and so like everybody else, I got on social media and he kept showing me, and I think about this now. I never used to read some of these posts. So all of a sudden I'm reading these posts and they're popping up. They're very prominent. And so he wanted me to see these. And what I found is that adults are really mean to each other. I was like horrified how cruel some people when, and I don't know if it's the safety of the social that you're not face to face, that it's online, but it just was awful how uncompassionate, unkind people were to each other. And then I found out kids are looking at those posts. They're looking what their parents are posting. If for no other reason, they don't want their parents posting about them, but then they read it and they're like, well, if they're posting that, I can do it too. Well, no, you parents shouldn't be doing it, and you shouldn't be doing the nasty, cruel things online either. And so I switched my focus to parents and making them the CEO of the family and letting them encouraging them to teach your children how to be kind. And that starts with their behavior. So God has been really good since that. And I've gone with the changes. I thought I was doing kids, but then he said, no, we're going to do this. Now we're doing parents. And then it got to be, well, now you're going to write it all down. I'm like, oh, geez. Didn't obey right away either because I'm like, I can't write this all down. But he led me, he got me to a place where I had to be away from home, and I was helping somebody else house sit at the time. So I literally sat by their pool and wrote the book, took all my research, all the outlines I had created. And with God's help, we just sat there. I was in the desert at the time and just sat there, and he just let the words flow. And that's how the book came about. And now I'm going out and speaking to parent groups and actually businesses. I spoke to a couple businesses too because they wanted kindness in their workplace. So I was part of a team building exercise with one company. So that's just what I do now, and that's what God wants me to do. And one of the things I've learned, two things I've learned. And God wanted me to know this. First of all, there were studies that show that kindness, if you and I, the three of us, exchanged an act of kindness, all of our serotonin levels go up. And that serotonin are your happy hormones. So, from one act of kindness created by the three of us, we're three very happy people. But this still fascinates me today that if anyone witnessed that, observed that act of kindness, their serotonin levels also go up. So, from one act of kindness, we've created this ripple of kindness in our corner of the world. The second thing I've learned is that when you're nurturing kindness and compassion, it opens so many doors for me to spread my faith. God put this in my heart, and He's telling us to be kind and compassionate. And each time I have the opportunity to speak and be on a podcast, speak in front of parents, I get to also not just spread kindness and compassion, which God tells us that's His base for us to do, but I also get to spread that faith, let people know that this comes from God.
I have to like
So
jump in
that's
here a minute because
yes.
when you mentioned you didn't obey right away with the book and you ended up house sitting and you happened to mention the desert and I immediately was like, okay, it's so symbolic but yet literal. That's what he
Yes.
does when he needs us to do this thing, whatever it is, whether it's preparing us or creating something, he takes us away from everything. And he's done it throughout the
Mm-hmm.
entire Bible. So it's not new. He did it with David, he did it with
Right.
Job. For whatever reason, he pulls you away to do that
Mm-hmm.
thing and prepare you for that thing. And so I just had to like bring that up to the forefront for just a second to understand that don't look at times of barrenness or
Mm-hmm.
desertness as I'm forgotten. No, it's because God remembers you so much that he's got to pull you away from everything and want us to love on you, just you in that space. And I'm getting goosebumps. It's just so powerful how much God loves us. And I love that you were able to say that and express it in such a beautiful way. This is what had to happen.
This is what
You
had to
made
happen.
it
And I
possible.
will share this amazing event that happened while I was out there. It actually rained one day. Okay. It doesn't rain there very often. And it rained. And then the sun came back out. And I am telling you, double rainbow was over the house, over where I was riding by the pool. And I'm like sitting there going, okay, I'm writing. I said, I get it. I get it. I get it. I know I'm supposed to be here, but it was just an incredible, yeah, goosebumps all over the place. And that was, yes, I meant to do this. So sit back down. And I got most of my, got a ton of writing done that time. And it was under his rainbow, under his gift to us. And that was
Wow.
incredible.
Under the promise.
Under the
Yes.
promise. I love too that you mentioned during that time it was like a desert season for
Mhm.
you. I feel
Yes.
like that's pretty common. He pulls us into that isolation and so that we can hear him clearly. And it's like, hey, no, this is what I have for you to do. Like, and did you find, Teresa, that during, working on this project that you really felt him ministering to you through what he was producing through you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Everything. Cause I would sit there and go, okay, now I'm stuck. How do I put this or that? And then it would just flow.
Mm-hmm.
I would think I'm stuck, but then okay, what am I supposed to, and it would just flow again.
Yep.
Uh, I don't know how else to explain it. It would just flow again.
You
Yep.
became a river in the desert.
There we
Yeah.
go. Oh, I like that.
Mm.
Can you share with us, Teresa, where your faith really began, like before this
Oh,
project and, kind of the mission that he gave to you? Where did your faith really start? Did you grow up in the faith or just kind of come to an adulthood?
I grew up as Catholic.
Okay.
So yes, I was God was with me the whole time. But it was probably 2.5 years ago because I had questions about the Catholic faith, and was looking for something else. And I knew
Hmm.
I was searching, and God took me to this church, Pentecostal like church. And I didn't, you know what you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
And so, yeah, so I was altar call. Yes, I received Jesus. I am so
Amen.
repenting from sins, the full water baptism, the whole bit. And that was probably 2.5 years ago. So that was about, I'm trying to think, was I a year there when this all started, when the book came about, when I went away to work on the book.
Gotcha.
So it was an interesting journey, and I find it fascinating how I thought I was doing everything that I was supposed to do, and then you
Mhm.
get this whole new viewpoint, and I'm like, wow, and how I now read the Bible every day, and those kind of things, which I never, it wasn't actually encouraged that much in the Catholic faith, or
Mhm.
their Bible studies were the Catholic interpretation
Mm.
versus you read it, what's God saying to you? So it's just a whole new world, and so happy God led me to,
Right.
because that was a total. Somebody said, well, don't you want to go? And I'm like, I'll go if you really want to go. I'll go with you. I wasn't. No, it wasn't. I was all excited. It was one of those, sure, I'll go because I don't want you to go by yourself kind of thing. And then it just spiraled from there.
Wow. Yeah,
That is
it's
some,
funny you say that because my story is kind of similar in that sense of, except I did grow up in the faith, but was distant for a while. And there was an interaction that happened that led me back to the church. And it was after like 5 or 6 years of not being in the church. And then, kind of a business opportunity presented itself for me. And I was like, oh, sure, I'll be there. And then little did I know it was a divine appointment for me,
Right.
not really about the business at all. God's like, all right, I'm going to just use her as bait to get you here so I can speak to your soul and save your soul. So, I think that's beautiful how through this process your soul has been saved, because I
Yes.
love that you mentioned
Yes.
that you were awakened. And there's so many people that go every
Mhm.
day thinking that they're doing all the right things and, oh, I know of God and I believe in God, yet we're not living for God. We're not following God. We're not allowing God to minister to us. And something
Mhm.
that's really been eye-opening to me recently is the closer we get to God, the more that we're going to recognize sin because he's
Mhm.
perfect and he's holy. So the closer you get to holiness, the more that you're going to see that gunk and dirt
Right.
and all the stuff that's not of God, and he cleanses us of it. It's not to condemn us. It's not like, oh wow, like
No.
I'm a terrible person. It's, oh wait, no, I don't want that. I want all of God, and this stuff can't come with me when I get closer to him. So I
Yes.
need him to cleanse me of it so I can become more holy and pure in who he's called me to be, which ultimately is his child, his beloved, his sweet devotion. And yes, he has tasks and purposes for us to do, but ultimately we're his. And when we start seeing ourselves as his children like that, it just changes everything.
It does. And it just kind of reinforced, how he puts things into our heart, and how he puts the kindness and the compassion and the love in our hearts so that we will share it. But
Hmm.
it started with him. And I think that was one of the things that was, I knew, but I didn't quite know. And now through the process, it's like glaring, like, how did I miss that before? Or why didn't I realize that before? So I think it's just everyone has a journey,
Yep.
and I needed to do what I did before I came to this point, and that was God needed to show me some things and teach me some things.
Mhm.
yeah, there's no right or wrong way to find your way to God.
Right.
There isn't. Everyone has a beautiful, I think we had an episode about this, about it's a love story. He loves
Mhm.
us. Our
Yes.
story that he's weaving for
Yes.
us is a love story to us because it's not necessarily about us. We get
Hmm.
to enjoy all of the beauty and wonder of it, but it's his because we're his. We belong to him. We're a part of his purpose and his story and his glory. And so he loves us so much though that he interweaves us in his story. And that's
Hmm.
just a profound, magnificent, I can't even dive into the depths of it realization that you come to. So,
Mhm.
Yes.
What was it, Teresa, about, when you started this journey with kindness? Was there something in your life that, okay, so when I think about my journey, and just really like where the Lord started speaking to me was in aligning my life to Him. And so I've written a book on that, and that's kind of been like the base of what I do, to help minister to
Mhm.
people as kindness is for you. And so he really was ministering to me in my life at that time about like, no, like these things are not for you. This is for you, because it's drawing you closer to me. And it was really just all about alignment, alignment, alignment with Christ. So, what is it about kindness for you at that time of your life? Like, do you feel like that's something that's always been a gift for you to be kind to others? Because I do believe I know it's a fruit of the spirit. I do believe
Mhm.
there's people that are more gifted at being kind than others. Um, what do you feel like it was for you about kindness, or just like, let me start writing about kindness?
Yeah, the school shooting was part of it, but I think I go back to growing up with my parents who were always in service. They wanted to be in service to God, and they demonstrated that. So I always was in service, wanted to be kind, wanted to reach out to others for this, that, or the other. Now, through this journey, it's intentional. I get up in the morning and say, okay, all right, God, what are we going to do today? What is the kindness I could share today? And we can go back to Monday with all the snow. And I had to help my son take him to work on Tuesday, and the snow was really not cleared here. Um, that kind of snow, that amount of snow is just unusual for us. And I happened to throw the shovel in the car. And when I was coming back, I'm seeing people dig their car out. I pulled over, grabbed my shovel, and helped people dig their cars out so they could leave to go to work. Uh, I'm not sure I would have done that before, but I see it now. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's just it. Before I didn't, I would probably have just driven by and not seen it. Now
Right.
God has me seeing it and then have to act on it. And that's what he wants me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And also during that time, my parents were aging, and I had to take care of them. My sister and I shared those duties. So that's just all been part of the journey since I started the kindness, and it's just always been intentional. And
Right.
it needs to be intentional. And I think that's when I went to, yes, I did it willy-nilly kind of thing, sporadically, but now I get up in the morning and ask
Mm,
and look and be intentional about it.
right. To
Divine
me, what
appointment.
that really, go ahead, Laurie. Sorry. I've
No,
been,
I was just going to say divine appointments because we don't
yes.
realize that every single day God has divine appointments already set for us and we walk right
Mm-hmm.
by them because we're not
Mm-hmm.
paying attention. We're
Yes.
not listening. We're not in alignment. We're not acting in our faith, which is work to maintain your
Mm-hmm.
faith. And so I was like shocked when he told me one day, you have divine appointments every single day. And I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And most of them, which is interesting enough, boil down to just an act of kindness sometimes.
Yep.
Yes. That's all. I think it boils down to that more than people realize. And when I come up and do my videos on Facebook and YouTube, I'll do quick little 5-minute videos and say, "This is where I found an opportunity to be kind today." And somebody says, "What? You just go out and look?" And I said, and I did. I said, "No, God tells me to
Mm-hmm.
look where I'm going." And I said, and make it intentional. And I think, people think they're kind, and that's great, but they're kind probably the way I was, very sporadically. But know that you have divine appointments every day, and you need to wake up and ask God about those
Yep.
and be intentional about it.
I love that. And I love too that, what's really coming to mind is our hearts don't long to do those things by the flesh naturally.
Mhm.
It's God's love that longs to do those things. And so, really, like you said, just coming into alignment every day with his heart and in his word and allowing him to nurture you with the truth.
Mhm.
And then you overflow. And it really is just this abundant overflow where you do like get excited to, because there's a lot of people that don't get excited to do that, you know? And
Yeah.
so it's all goes back to your heart posture. Like, okay, why don't I get excited to be kind? Why don't I get excited to be compassionate? Like, there's something going on in my heart because God designed us and created us to do those things. So if there's
Mhm.
something that's hindering that desire, I need to address it.
And it also helps because it does, God has this, think about how God created our bodies. When you're kind, your happy hormones go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's his intentional design for us. And so if you're feeling, especially this time of year, people get depressed or they're having anxiety, if you perform an act of kindness, it really reduces those symptoms. And then you're like, oh, okay. Well, if I continue to do this and get up every morning and ask God, where can I be kind? That depression really does lessen.
Yep.
And I think people, God designed us that way. I think about that, and every time I think about how we're designed and how things play out, it's just God's amazing.
It is.
Amen.
I
Yeah.
don't think people think about that, that when you're in depression or you're anxious or you're fearful, those aren't things of God. You're actually
No.
walking with darkness when you do that. And so, of course, God made it the opposite. Well, actually, I should say he made it. Satan twisted the kindness and turned it into angry hate. But
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense that when we are walking in God's righteousness, in kindness, then the serotonin lifts. And it actually, if you take it even deeper, not only does it lift you up, but it takes you up out of the darkness because he doesn't
Yes.
want you in there. We're not called to be in there. And so stop looking at, well, people don't do nice things for me, and realize that when you do something nice, it is doing something nice for you.
Mm.
Yes.
That's a mic drop
Yes.
right there. I do love that, Lori.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
You are doing
When
something nice
people
for you.
say, self-care, I said, that's part of self-care
Yeah.
right there.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that I mean, even the Son of Man didn't come to be served, but to serve.
Hmm.
And it brought him great pleasure to do so. It still does. It gives Jesus great pleasure to serve us and to love us the way that he does. And he knows that when we do those same things, like it's going to bring us, those good feelings and make us happy. And we get more excited to continue doing it and making it a lifestyle and just doing the things that he created us to do instead of, the selfish, self-absorbed things that we tend to default to that don't
Right.
produce, you know, joy. They don't. It's
Mm-mm.
temporary
Mm-mm.
happiness. It's a moment of just like, ooh, that was cool. And then you're looking for the next, hit of dopamine. So what produces that longevity of joy that is just abundantly overflowing all the time? And we know it comes from Jesus Christ and just living the way that he has called us to live.
Right. And I know sometimes it's not always easy. But you do, like I said, I keep using the word intentional, but that's what it is. But if you have your relationship with God and you get up every morning to have that first conversation should be with God, that you just have to make it as natural as breathing. And then things just flow from there. And if you have to put sticky notes everywhere, put alarm on your phone to get started, to help
Mhm.
you get started so it is as natural as breathing. That makes a big
I love
difference for
that.
people, but it takes a little start and stop.
Yeah. So let's tell our listeners real quick a little bit about your book and all the exciting things that have happened since that.
Oh, my book. My book is, oh, I just happen to have a copy. Is Raising Kind Children. Is Raising Kind Children. It is a quick, simple read. It's taken all the research I have done and made it a simple process for anybody, but specifically for parents, where they can use every day-to-day activities until and instill those in their children until it becomes as natural as breathing. Then, when you get to the more difficult, those awkward situations, it's going to be easier to be kind when you're faced with someone coming and yelling at you or something bad happened. You're going to be able to handle it in a better way, in a kinder way. And it's like I said, it's a quick read, specifically designed that way for parents. And it's like simple processes to make it as natural as breathing.
And tell us about
I
the
just pulled it
award
up
you
on
have.
Amazon.
Oh yeah. Tell us about your award.
Oh, yes. And it did win. Thank you, Laurie. I can't believe I did receive the Impact Book Award in the family category.
Wow.
So somebody else thought it was pretty terrific too.
That's so amazing.
I
See
love
what
it. I'm
happens when we're
definitely
obedient?
ordering.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It was
Award.
one of those, I did not expect that. Didn't see that coming.
No, but that's so amazing. So if you could give any our listeners like one last little tip or inspiration, what would you say?
Just remember, this is something that I always teach. Remember that you don't know what somebody else is going through. So when you get into a depressed person, an angry person, and you're faced with them, just remember personal pain is as unique as a fingerprint, and you just don't know what someone's going through. So always respond to them in kind.
Hmm.
That's beautiful. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for being here. It's been an amazing episode. And I'm excited to, as your friend, and I love you, to follow and see all the things that happen as you journey on God's love story that He's writing for you. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so great to get to spend time with you.
You too.
Thanks, Teresa.
All right. Thanks. Until next time, everybody.